it was amazing to do this because it was such a strong character that was so controversial because it was a woman that did a lot of damage to her family, herself.
Well, you may already know that Sofia Vergara and Netflix were sued not long ago. The case was brought by the family of Griselda Blanco, the Colombian drug lord that Vergara was going to play in a new miniseries on the streaming network. Blanco's son, Michael Corleone Blanco, is one of the plaintiffs who helped file the case in a Miami-Dade County courtroom last week. The family told the court that they don't want their photos to be used and that they don't want the series to air. Sometime after the case was filed, Newman, the creator of Griselda, talked to Entertainment Tonight and said that the Escobar family made similar claims when he was a showrunner on Narcos. Newman didn't seem to care about the case. "It's not my first rodeo," he said. "That's the story we wanted to tell." The other person said, "I think we presented it, and I don't see any reason why someone else couldn't do the same." The person accused, whose name is given as Michael Griselda Blanco, said that since 2009, he has been talking to people who want to make shows about his mother's life. Blanco, who was made famous as the cocaine godmother, ran a very successful drug business in Miami. Colombia was the place where she died in 2012. The miniseries Griselda, which is set to come out on January 25, was made without her son's interviews being taken into account, according to her son. He said that Netflix had showed interest in his mother's story. Blanco said they used stories from other people and didn't give him enough credit for the story they told about his mother. Even though the family wasn't upset by the use of Griselda's likeness, they said that their own likenesses were used in the creation and that they didn't want the end result to be shown. Another role Catherine Zeta-Jones played was Blanco in a movie that came out in 2018 and was shown on Lifetime in the US. Vergara is one of the 7 people charged in the case. She was an executive producer for the Netflix show. Latin World Entertainment Holdings, LLC, a company that manages performers, and Netflix are also defendants. Blanco and Marie, Blanco's wife, were named as plaintiffs in the case. According to a statement Marie and her lawyer, Elisa Galloway, shared on Instagram in September, the Blanco family has nothing to do with the promotional project Griselda that is set to air on Netflix. When the Griselda project was being planned, Michael Corleone Blanco and the rest of the Blanco family were not involved or thought about in any way. You have all the legal rights that come with it. Through a post in December, Galloway said that Blanco had trademarked the title of the book. The book was called My Mother, the Godmother, and the True Story of Michael Corleone Blanco. After some time, Blanco said that the book was now out there. A recent chat with CBS News' Jonathan Vigliotti gave Vergara a chance to talk about the things about Blanco that interested her. "As a woman, I was drawn to the idea. How did she become even more cruel and horrible than any man's behavior?" She asked. Vergara, like Blanco, spent her childhood in Colombia. There were about 2.5 million deaths in Colombia's drug war, which ran for decades. The actress's brother was one of the victims. "My brother had something to do with that business," she said. "I am aware of the damage that can be caused by that kind of business to a family, to an individual, and to a nation." The lawsuit against the Netflix show Griselda, which stars Sofia Vergara, on the other hand, has finally been settled. One Hollywood reporter got records that show the lawyer for the family of the late Griselda Blanco dropped the case without prejudice. In other words, the same claim can't be brought back to court. There was a case against the actress and the streaming service for the miniseries. Vergara plays a Colombian drug lord who was killed in 2012 in the show. After the case was filed, the settlement was made. Michael Blanco said that the people who made the show used his private artistic literary work without his permission or credit, which caused irreparable harm. The case was first filed on January 17 in a court in Miami-Dade County. Along with asking for at least $50,000 in damages, he also asked for a temporary order stopping the streaming service from showing the limited series on January 25. After that, Michael Blanco said he watched the show and that it was very emotional. In an interview on The Real Griselda, a podcast led by filmmaker Billy Corben, who made the godmother of cocaine famous with his Cocaine Cowboys documentary trilogy, he said, "It's a rush of emotions. What I'm going through is very strange." He then said, "I'm not going to lie to you. It was very emotional. It was heartbreaking. I was having trouble taking a breath through my nose at one point. I found out that I was happy. I learned that I was having a bad day." On the other hand, he said that the story of his family deserved a little more. "I believe that the story of my family, the universe of the Blanco family, is so intricate and so legendary that it ought to be treated with respect when it comes to the art of storytelling." Variety says that Griselda was the most watched Netflix show in the week it came out, ranking #1 in 89 countries. On Rotten Tomatoes, a website that collects reviews, 71% of people who saw it liked it and 88% of reviewers thought it was good. Now, I know that some of you may not know the full history of the story, so let me explain. From the 1970s to the early 2000s, the Colombian drug lord Griselda Blanco Restrepo was a major player in Miami's cocaine-based drug trade and criminal underworld. Some people have also said that he was a part of the Medellin cartel. Blanco was killed in Medellin on September 3, 2012. He was 69 years old at the time. Blanco was one of the most important people in the cocaine trade between Colombia and Miami, New York, and other big places in North America, as well as to dealers in California. The areas in the United States and Colombia that were part of her delivery network brought in $80 million every month. Blanco's first husband, Carlos Trujillo, was the one who put together the first marijuana business in Colombia with her. Blanco came into the United States illegally after her divorce from Trujillo in 1964. She did this by using fake papers and a fake name. She finally settled down in Queens, New York, with her 3 kids and her second husband, Alberto Bravo, who worked for the Medellin cartel as a drug dealer. It was successful for them to start a drug business in New York City. However, 9 years later, in April 1975, Blanco was caught by the police and charged with federal drug plot along with 30 of her employees. Blanco was also charged with planning to sell drugs. The family went to Colombia so they wouldn't be found guilty. She came back to the United States in the second half of the 1970s to start a new drug business in South Florida. It was around the time she got back home that a lot of violent public disputes started happening in the Metro Miami area. In the 1980s, there were hundreds of murders every year, which is widely known as the Miami drug war. Within this time frame, sales of cocaine were much higher than sales of weed. Cocaine made a lot of money. The struggling efforts of law enforcement to stop the flow of cocaine into Miami led to the formation of a joint operation between the Miami-Dade Police Department and the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, to fight drugs. In this case, it's called CNTAC 26, which stands for Central Tactical Unit. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to stay updated on future content. Your support means the world to me. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future videos, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I love hearing from each and every one of you. Remember, this channel is a community, and I'm grateful to have you as part of it. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep chasing your passions. This is Glamour Grid signing off. See you in the next video.